Well, the process, I think, took everybody by surprise in that the proposals around security of appointment went through the legislative committee by such an overwhelming vote that it automatically went on the consent calendar. And then the group that was organizing the petition to pull it off the consent calendar unfortunately had an error. They had one person sign twice, so they didn't have enough signatures to pull it off. But in essence, from my perspective, we actually had the vote because General Conference had the opportunity to vote to reconsider. They heard a short version of the arguments on both sides, and they had a chance to vote, and they voted to not reconsider, which frequently tracks the sentiment about the underlying issue. I think that I misjudged the strength of sentiment in favor of doing away with security of appointment. Now, as to what we actually did, I think the reality is that we're not going to know what we did for a couple of years. We have eliminated the paragraph that says that clergy shall remain under appointment when they're in good standing, but we have added paragraphs that create new processes around not appointing people. And as I look at the legislation and talk to other people to try to understand what we've done, it will only be as the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry publishes its interpretation, as bishops, cabinets, boards of ordained ministry, and clergy sessions become accustomed to this new legislation and decide how they're going to work with it. And ultimately, the Judicial Council, I am absolutely confident, ultimately the Judicial Council is going to render some decisions that are going to bring clarity to it. It is not at all clear to me that we have actually done away with security of appointment. My guess is that we have adjusted the process and we have probably made it easier to remove people from the appointment process. But if I had to guess right now, there are still some checks on bishops and cabinets. But we will see if boards of ordained ministry and clergy sessions are going to be willing to exercise the authority that they seem to have been given. But like I said, we've had different pieces of legislation approved this week that all have some bearing on it, and it's just going to take time. I don't think anybody can say with confidence right now what we've done. Well, the really interesting thing, 4 years ago, after my first General Conference, when I left, I was so depressed. It was just a really hard experience for me. And what I learned was that the sun came up the next day, and life went on. And so this time, when I watched the process and the debates, the church is more like a very large ship that does not turn. Even the restructuring that we seem to have adopted this morning is probably not going to make much difference to people in local churches. It's rather like a large ship, and you can change the heading by 1 or 2 degrees, and the next day you won't notice a difference. 100 miles from now, you may wind up in a very different place. So what we do matters a lot. But next January, when the new Book of Discipline comes out, for people in local congregations, it's not going to be a dramatic change, I don't think. It will be a change that will manifest itself over months and years. That's really the kind of work, I think, most of the time that happens at General Conference.